This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
I came across a recent article where the head of Accenture made the bold claim that large companies cannot do innovation. Now, these are one of those articles that they get my blood pressure really going here. More accurately, what he said was, corporate innovation does not work. Now, this is Narry Singh. He's head of Accenture, which is a big consulting firm globally. And he claims that as a result, many large companies are dying. And that's a direct quote. He says that innovation at large companies do not work because, quote, the firms are too slow to move to change their work practices. And he has this magic answer. And the magic answer is work with startups. Now, it sounds like a one-size-fits-all solution innovation. And startups are the answer. That's where all the creative thinking is. Everybody that works for large organizations or large companies can't think creatively. You got to go to a startup. That's basically how this article reads. Now, flat out, I disagree. I absolutely do not agree with this premise that startups are the magic answer. Now, it can play a role of being one of many possible sources for innovation, but it isn't the situation as this article portrays where companies cannot innovate, large organizations cannot innovate, and the answer is go work with startups. Now, I ran the innovation program office at HP for more than 8 years. And that's with a team that launched more than 20 global products. We averaged between 2 and 3 fundamentally new products every year on a global scale. Now, with the right structure, you can make this happen. And look, in addition to the innovation program office, I was also the chief technology officer at HP. And it's that experience of having been at HP for 10 years, creating and running the IPO for 8 years, being the CTO, large organizations can be successful at innovation. What they need is the right structure, the right culture, and an understanding of how the laws of innovation apply to them. Now, what do I mean by the laws of innovation? What I mean by the laws of innovation, I wrote a blog post back, I think it's like 2011 now, where I wrote out the 7 laws of innovation based on my experience, having been doing this in my career for more than 30 years. The blog post kind of blew up, got picked up by Fast Company and Business Week and a bunch. And a friend of mine, Brian Kramer and his wife, they run a design firm in Silicon Valley. They design posters of the 7 laws. You can get those over at innovation.tools, and 100% of the proceeds from those posters goes to Hacking Autism, a nonprofit helping those on the autism spectrum. So enough for the plug. But the 7 laws really lays out things like the laws of leadership, the laws of patience, the law of resources. Gives you the 7 elements that all have to be in place in an organization to really be effective at producing high-performance innovation. Now, I'm not going to go through the 7 laws. There's other podcasts in the catalog. You can go over to killerinnovations.com. You can look for 7 laws, and you can find the previous podcast. I've also written a lot about this over on the blog, so go to philmckinney.com. You can get that. My point here is that there is some very simple, fundamental things outside of the 7 laws that an organization can do, large organizations can do, to be much more effective in producing high-impact innovations. Now, let me just be upfront. This is hard. It requires perseverance. It requires some level of leadership from within the large organization. And I mean more than just someone using innovation as a buzzword. But it can happen. So what are large companies to do? I'm going to share with you the 6 steps. These are 6 elements that large organizations can put in place to really have high-impact innovation. Step 1, team leadership. Put the right leader in place. You need to have someone that's going to run these innovation efforts. Now, many out there will tell you have to go outside. You have to go outside and recruit somebody outside of your industry, somebody who's been a chief innovation officer someplace else. I'm going to tell you that's not always the case. And I think if that's the case where you feel like you have to go outside to hire somebody, then you've got a failure in your HR department. You got a failure in your recruiting process. You most likely have someone inside your organization. They're just hidden. You need to find someone in your organization who has, for instance, experience across multiple industries. That's an important characteristic. I credit my career success to having worked across everything from, biometric security for the federal, for the security agencies here within the U.S. government to computer-based training. If you want to go out, you can still go buy a product I created called Typing Instructor, still available in Best Buy 25 years later after I created that product. So CBT programming, stand-up coursework, mobile communications technologies, consumer electronics in the form of HP. Now I'm in the cable industry as a CEO. So I find that having that variety of experience across multiple industries, great characteristics. Find someone in your team who has that key. They've also somebody who's worked at both startups and large organizations. I've told this story on this show before. I did 13 startups before I got my first IPO and got really a payoff from all that effort. That's a test of perseverance. It's a test of perseverance for spouses. But I've also worked for large organizations, Computer Sciences Corporation, Hewlett-Packard, and those all give you both large and small, and you can appreciate the pros and cons of each. You also need somebody who's been in the organization long enough to embrace the culture and just know how to get stuff done. Now, when you bring on this leader, this person to run it, you've got to be patient. You got to let them go. In the case of HP, I talk about the fact that we did more than 20 global product launches, fundamentally new products. We averaged 2 to 3 a year. Our metric that I gave to the CEO at HP at that time, Mark Hurd, was that we would do 2 products every year. We averaged really 3 every year, and in some years we did 4. But to get that, though, I negotiated basically a 3-year ramp up. For the first 3 years, no obligations. We didn't have to deliver squat for 3 years in order to get the team up and running and get it going. So you have to have someone in that team leadership who can put together not only the vision, who's got the experience, who's got passion. Look for the passion. Then you have to give them that ramp-up time. As a leader, you've got to give them that air cover. You've got to give them that protection. Now, if you are that hidden leader in your organization, step out. People aren't going to come by your desk and knock on and say, guess what? We want you to run innovation. If they don't know who you are, they don't know what you're capable of, they don't know your past work, they don't know your passion, how are any executives going to know that you are that hidden gem inside your organization? You have to be willing to step out. Now, if you're a leader in your organization and it's your task to find the person who should be leading your innovation efforts, get in deep into your organization. It most likely will not be your direct reports, and it may not even be your direct reports. You need to get deep into the organization and find that hidden gem within your organization who can really shine if given the right culture, the right structure, the right support, the right patience in order to put together the right innovation efforts. What most organizations will do is they'll say, oh, we don't have anybody. I need to hire someone from the outside. Quote, I'll hire a chief innovation officer and we've solved the problem. That doesn't solve your problem. People from the outside, it takes a long time for them to get ramped up. Look, I was at HP for 2, 3 years, 4 years, really, before I became what I would call truly effective. I wasn't even the CTO for the first 2.5 years. During Carly's era, I became CTO when Mark Hurd came in as the CEO. But those early years allowed me to learn the organization and then get ready to be positioned to take on the Innovation Program Office. That is what works. Find that person who's going to be the leader And if you are that person, don't be shy. Let people know what you're interested in doing. Do good work. Do side projects where you can show your ability to innovate, be creative, come up with new ideas. So, we've only covered the first of the 6, so we're going to come back right after this quick commercial break and talk more about how large organizations can be successful in innovation. I do not buy into this premise that large companies cannot innovate. They can, and we're going to talk more about this, and we'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Today we're discussing this article that was published a couple weeks ago about this comment that the head of Accenture made that corporate innovation does not work. That's Narry Singh, who's head of Accenture. And I flat out don't agree with it. So I'm sharing with you the 6 steps, 6 actions that a large organization can take in order to really be producing some high-impact, game-changing innovations. Step 1 that we just covered was around leadership. Get the right person in place. Now, after you have the right person in place, the step 2, pretty obvious, is recruiting. Be on the lookout for people to join the team who show passion. Now, at HP, when I was first forming the Innovation Program Office, I went out purposely to hire the outcasts, the renegades, the rebels, the people who were not afraid to kind of stir the pot, cause a little angst in the system, inject a little stress. I was looking for people who were highly, highly passionate around the work that they were doing, whatever that work was, whether it was, someone designing a new laptop or somebody who was creating some entirely new concept. But you have to be looking for them, and you have to have an eye for the kind of people that you want. Now, you can teach people the business. I can teach people the business. I can teach people technology. I can teach people how to code, right? What I cannot teach is passion. I cannot teach someone to be really believing in an idea and just have absolute 100% dedication, passion to the work. So for me, passion is absolutely critical. It's getting somebody who really is energized around taking that idea and translating it. They need to have a proven ability to execute. There's a lot of people who are passionate, who are really great at sitting back and coming up with lots of ideas. They've filled up notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of ideas, but none of them have come to fruition. They've never delivered. They've never been able to translate that idea and actually execute against it. Now, in many cases, people who are passionate, who are high energy, who have had some experience on the execution, they most likely will not have basic innovation skills or abilities. But you can teach them, and you can find other people who can teach them. Right? It's one of the reasons why when I was at HP, when I started recruiting people into the Innovation Program Office, I started teaching this course called the Innovation Bootcamp. And the Innovation Bootcamp was a 5-day course which kind of put people into a real pressure cooker situation. Very time boxed, very time constrained, but give everybody the experience of going from a blank sheet of paper and not even knowing what to even spark for the idea all the way through to the end. Now, this is a course that I've been teaching for decades, and in fact, before I even joined HP was a client, and I taught this workshop inside of HP, Agilent, and a number of other companies that were all spin-offs from HP, in the late 90s going into the early 2000s. It's actually how I ended up at HP after teaching that course, and they wanted to bring that innovation culture back to HP. and that's why I originally came back to them. But you can teach the skills. Innovation is like any other skill. It's not a special blessing that you're bestowed on. And oops, sorry, the guy next to you, sorry, you didn't get this quote special gift. That's bogus. Innovation is a skill. It's like any other skill. It's a skill you can learn, it's a skill you can practice, and it's a skill you can become proficient at. So, get them up to skill, train them, onboard and support them, get them in place, give them some runway, let them stumble and fail, give them the air cover. One example when I was at HP is a guy by the name of Tom Saliga, and how I found him. We were getting ready to get on a plane to go to do a due diligence on a possible acquisition. I asked him, hey, what projects are you working on? He started sharing me kind of the standard products. He worked in desktops at the time. And I said, no. What project are you working on that your boss doesn't know about? And his eyes widened and says, are you serious? And I said, yes. And he just went off on this project of designing a new kind of hardware architecture for very, very high output, high compute in desktop computers. And I said, well, the only people that could use that would be the gaming business. And lo and behold, that's how the gaming business unit at HP got formed. So you got to recruit, keep an eye open for people that are out there. Step 3, governance. Governance is how do you control the innovation team. Be careful in how you set up your governance and of which ideas move forward. The innovation antibodies come out in droves when they think they can exert control on the yes-no decision. And I prefer to stay out of it, right? Because of executive influence. I don't get in the middle of my teams picking the projects that move forward. We do things like set budget limits. So for instance, at my current job, every employee gets $1,000 per year, whether you're the receptionist, the person, pushing the broom to clean the break rooms, or your head of research and development. Every employee gets $1,000 a year. Every team can spend up to $50,000 a year on a project. They don't have to ask approval. They don't have to, get someone sign off. Every team, $50,000. The innovation team, the people that run the innovation team that has the budget to be divvied out onto projects, they can approve up to an additional $250,000 before it even has to come to me as the CEO. It allows the teams to move fast. You'll find that the others that are kind of your antibodies will fall away because they can't keep up. The faster you move, the faster you go through projects, the faster your experimentation, you will just simply outrun everybody else inside the large organization, and they will just give up trying to control you because they cannot keep up. So these are just some of the governances that I've put in place, which is more about not control, but to give permission. The fact that every employee gets $1,000 to go drive an innovation idea, no matter who you are, or a team can spend up to $50,000, or the innovation team can approve spends up to $250,000 just on a raw idea without any permission, without any approval process needed, allows an organization to move quickly. What's interesting about the $1,000 per employee is we've had employees go around with an idea where they need $5,000 or $6,000, and they run around the company and they get their buddies to throw money into the pot. And they raise their angel round inside the organization to see their idea come to fruition. Put structures, put governance in place, not to drive control, but to grant permission. Give permission to the teams to go out and make great things happen. So, we're going to take another quick commercial break here. We're only through step 3. We've got 3 more to go of really the 6 steps, 6 actions that any large organization can take to really step up that game and create innovations that will have great impact. And believe me, large organizations can innovate. I've been in them. I've done it. I've got the proof. We're going to continue our conversations as soon as we come back from this quick commercial break.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Before we jump back into the show, I want to thank our sponsor this week, which is Zoom. Zoom delivers flawless video, clear audio, and instant sharing so that your teams can work better together, no matter where your team members are at. Now, how do I know this? I've been using Zoom for every day for over a year, long before they ever became a sponsor. It allows me to collaborate with my team, who is scattered around the world, and it's the first video collaboration technology. And believe me, I've tried them all. This is the first one I've ever used that doesn't suck. And it's not just me who thinks so. Gartner just ranked them and is a new leader in what's called the Magic Quadrant for web conferencing this year. So it's a great solution for startup businesses, small businesses, large corporations, or individuals. So working with Zoom being a sponsor of the show, they're setting up and giving a free account. So give it a try. You get a free account that allows you to meet with up to 50 video participants. That's right. You can have 50 people on a video call with you and try this out. So visit killerinnovations.com/Zoom to find out more. That's killerinnovations.com/Zoom. Check it out. You won't regret it. So let's continue our conversation. Can large organizations innovate? And my answer is absolutely yes. So we've covered the first 3 steps. Let's jump into number 4, what I call go outside. Now, just because you're a large organization and you got lots of resources, or any size organization, even if you're a small startup, do not fall into the trap that says that you can come up with 100% of your own ideas. The hardest challenge for innovation is sourcing ideas. Where are you going to go to find those really great ideas? So you need to have an ecosystem. Create an ecosystem of outside parties that you're partnering with in order to source ideas. Now, this is where, I've been harping this entire show around this article that from the leader of Accenture saying that large corporations cannot innovate and that startups are the answer. It's a one-size-fits-all kind of answer, which is bogus. In the case of innovation, you need to have multiple activities going. So, albeit Accenture is saying startups could play one role, but there are other roles. For instance, university research. I'm a big believer in working with universities, professors, grad students, postdocs, fund their research, and see what comes of it. It's risk, but you never know where an idea may come up. Now, we talked about university research and co-innovation and startup VCs and what I call ecosystem innovation on a podcast here not too long ago. So go back to killerinnovations.com and you can search out this concept of other sources of innovation. So university research is one. Co-innovation, where it's you and one other partner, that's another great source of innovation. You can do startups, VCs. I do a lot of mentoring of startups. I mentor at accelerators and incubators, working with early stage companies. And then, looking at ecosystem, where you're getting large consortiums to drive innovation. So, we just had John Osborne on the show as the chairman of Zigbee Alliance. And I look at the output for organizations like Zigbee Alliance, particularly with the Zigbee 3.0 work that they've just released, where they bring together a large number of organizations together to drive an innovation to impact an industry. What I do day to day is ecosystem innovation. I'm the CEO at Cable Labs. We're funded by 57 of the largest cable operators. We're basically the Bell Labs for cable. So if you enjoy your high-speed data over cable, that technology was invented at Cable Labs. In that case, we're trying to coordinate 57 different organizations plus the entire vendor community in order to innovate. We drive the innovations. We do not create products. So there's a lot of different ways that this plays out. So again, the key is go outside. Once you've got your innovation team in place, you've got a leader, you've recruited them, don't put the burden 100% on their shoulders. Create a funnel of ideas that can be coming in from the outside. In university and co-innovation and startups, working with venture capitalists, ecosystems, maybe you're doing here in the United States, it's called an SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research Project, where it's funded by the government. Find the mechanisms to not be reliant on only one source of ideas for your innovation. Some examples, we just released, or I should say about 9 months ago, we announced a technology that's going to transform broadband services to consumers' homes and to businesses. And a lot of that work was the result of university-funded research we started 4 years ago at Stanford University. So we've already had one big hit. We fund today, 8 or 10 universities. We're not a very big organization. Unlike at HP, where we funded 180 universities around the world. In my current role, we're 8 to 10 universities. But we've already had one big win as a result of that. So don't fall into the trap. Please don't fall into the trap that thinks that your team, your organization, or you as an individual are the only ones and the golden source for ideas. Get your ego out of the way. Recognize that ideas can come from any range of areas. Search them out. Step number 5, and here's advice that probably your boss will absolutely hate, and that is stay stealth. Once you get the team moving, stay hidden. Keep your heads down. Don't pop up. Don't be talking about your work. Antibodies cannot attack what they cannot see. The hardest part of my job is keeping people on the team. Stop talking. Stop saying what they're working on. They're proud of their work. They want to share it. The problem is, as soon as you pop up, people feel like they have a permission to have an opinion, right? I've seen way too many projects killed when someone stuck their head out of the foxhole and they got shot. So don't fall into that trap either. Stay stealth. Push that project down the pipeline as far as you can. An example of what I did for this is I actually created a remote research lab at HP that no one knew existed. 99% of the executives at HP had no idea. In fact, I did a journalistic tour. I brought journalists, and Wired Magazine came, and Business Week came out to this hidden research lab not too far from San Jose Airport, and we made all the journalists turn off all GPS codes in their cameras so the photographs were not GPS tagged, so there wouldn't be any inadvertent release of where this secret research lab was at. And it was basically an old warehouse, and we were doing some phenomenal work. And basically, I hid the budget line item so that it couldn't even be cut. People, like, okay, I heard about this research facility. We can't afford that. We need to cut it. And I'm like, go ahead. Find the budget line item where it's hidden, right? Even the real estate department at HP had no idea where this research lab was at. Now, that research lab stayed in place, for, probably 18 months after I left before it finally did get, totally crushed. But creating both facilities and giving teams permission to not have to report out, let them do their work, protect them from the antibodies. Now, this applies to whether you're running, at HP at the time was 240,000 employees around 178 countries, to today, I have 180 employees, primarily in 3 facilities around the world. Giving permission to do work that's off the radar screen, that doesn't need executives sticking their fingers into it and mucking it up. Giving permission for people to go stealth. But it's hard to do because people want to talk about it. They're proud of their work. So you have to balance that by creating opportunities for them to show off what they're doing, to show off the great work that they do. So keep in mind, this is a recommendation that bosses, CEOs, leaders will have the hardest time understanding and accepting, but it's a critical one. Stay stealth. Stay off the radar screen for as long as possible, because antibodies, like I said, antibodies cannot attack what they do not see. And this stealth mode is one of the keys to success of taking an idea and turning it into an innovation. So, we've completed now 5 of the 6 steps that I'm recommending large organizations, large companies, any company really that wants to have high innovation impact. We've got one more to go. We're going to step out, take another quick commercial break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about number 6. How do large organizations create innovations? So we'll be right back after this break.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Hopefully so far I've convinced you that large companies, or companies literally of any size, can innovate. There's lots of materials, lots of books. We have lots of materials on our sites to help teams, organizations, CEOs, leaders to put in place what they need to be successful. So today we're covering what I would call kind of the 6 critical steps that an organization needs to take to generate high impact innovations. We've covered the first 5. We're on to number 6. Number 6 is create a new funding model. Funding models in most corporations, most organizations of any size is around the budget cycle, which means it's kind of an annualized process. If you're on a calendar year, typically in the summer, they start collecting up kind of rough ideas of the budget, the fall season, August, September, October, people are kind of locking it down. November, it gets voted on, the board, quote, approves it. December, you're wrapping up the previous year. January, you're off and running. That's great. Makes for kind of a nice, structured, organized process. It doesn't work for innovation. You don't innovate on a calendar cycle. You need to create a new funding model for the innovations. Yearly budget cycles don't fit. If you've got a big project that is going to go over multiple years, how do you do that? Do you try to break it down and make it fit into the budgeting cycle? I've tried that to make that work. It is extremely frustrating to the innovation team. You end up with this kind of start-stop process where you kind of get going and then whoop, slow down because we don't have budget approval for next year, so you can't commit to that head count. You can't commit to that prototype yet because you got to wait until next year's budget cycle, and it just totally screws up the entire innovation process. So innovation doesn't happen on an annual basis. So why should the funding model be structured that way? Get your CFO to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. The key here is to show the CFO how you're managing risk. The CFO's job is to manage financial risk, to make sure they have sufficient cash on hand to cover the expenses and to meet what they told the board they were going to achieve financially. Don't treat the CFO, push them away, make them part of the solution. Every CFO that I've interacted with, both the CFOs at the divisions at HP or the corporate CFO at HP, my CFOs in my current role, CFOs in the past, what I have found is that they want to be part of the solution. They don't like being the no guys or gals. They want to be part of the solution. So bring them in, make them part of the solution, explain how you manage the innovation risk using things like stage gate funding. If you're not familiar with stage gate funding, go over to Killer Innovations. Just search for StageGate. There's been a number of podcasts on this. We actually have over on Killer Innovations and examples where you can download stage gates and you can create those stage gate funding models so that the CFO gets comfortable that you're taking the management of risk as seriously as they do. So step number 6, create a new funding model. Get out of an annual budgeting process. You need patience. You need committed resources over extended period of times to be successful. So, what we talked about today, when it comes to doing innovations in large corporations, here again are the 6 steps I used and I use today. 1, establish team leadership. Find that person who's going to drive and support and enable your innovation roadmap. 2, recruiting. That leader and supporting them, help them find and recruit the right team. I go for the renegades. I go for the rebels. I go for the ones that typically don't fit into a traditional button-down kind of corporate environment. I'm finding the people who are going to shake things up. Number 3, governance. Don't let other people kind of put a structure on you where you got to go to some committee to get an idea approved. Use your governance to, in effect, create permission. Set aside dollars, give away signing authority, have that team move fast. Number 4, go outside. You're not the only source for ideas. Open up. Number 5, stay stealth, stay off the radar screen. And number 6, find a new funding model. Get out of the annual budgeting cycle as the funding mechanism for innovations in an organization. And when a corporation and company does that, they are well on their way to creating innovations that are going to be game changers. So thanks for joining today. If you have any questions, just drop me a note over at phil@killerinnovations.com. You can visit the show notes. We'll have links. I'll try to put up a bunch of links to some past shows so that you can kind of, get the full picture here. So just hop over to killerinnovations.com. That's where you'll find the show notes for this show, plus the entire archive going back to 2005. Follow over on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or any of the other social medias. Just search for Phil McKinney, no spaces, all one word. Also, check out the store, innovation.tools. That's where you can find the book. We just recently have put up, I'm not advertising it yet, so you're getting an inside scoop here. The Killer Question card decks are now in. I'm not advertising them yet because I'm getting ready to head on a big trip. So I'm going to be gone, so it's kind of hard to ship if a bunch of people order. But if you want to check out the Killer Question card deck, you can go over to innovation.tools, Tools. You can check out the card deck. You can put your order in. Just be patient. I am going to be on the road here for a while. We also have some other items that will be popping up there. Can I ask a favor? Can you write a review over on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast? It's a huge help, right? We want to get the word out on the show, help more people really drive and create innovations that are going to change the world, make the world better through innovation. But we need to help in getting that word out. So tell people about the show. Give us a review. Tell us what you think of the show. We read the reviews over on iTunes or wherever the show, whether it's Google Play or Stitcher or wherever you get your podcast. And remember, don't let the innovation antibodies get you down. Right? We all have innovation antibodies. We have those people who listen to your ideas and tell you they're not good, they're not going to work, don't try it. You're not the person to make that happen. Don't believe them. Don't let the innovation antibodies get you down. Go out there and change the world, one innovation at a time. We will see you here next week. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be part of this. Please communicate. Let us know topics and questions you have, and we'll weave those into upcoming shows. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.